much time that I literally planned on.
I left church. I grew to love it, and then I grew to hate it. My mom's child from the way
I went through all that stuff too. I'm not
have
who I am.
boyfriends that are incarcerated,
you have
and he would just come in and he would just cry. He'd be like, "I love you so much. I didn't mean it. You know, I would never hurt you."
And I sat down and I'm like, yeah, that wife is son and him, because he was a married man with a kid.
Got her by the throat, brought me into my closet, started slamming my head.
That's how big it is. Your story can change somebody's history. It's bigger than you.
Hey guys, welcome. I am always excited, guys. Don't I always say I'm excited, but I'm even more excited today. Like always, this platform, Untold, was created to give a voice to those that usually don't have a place to speak. It gives people the opportunity to also clock in with someone to say, hey, I see you, and I know what you're going through. I've been through it too. And every time we have a different guest on here, the goal is that as you see that person and you hear their story of how they've overcome, you also receive hope. Today is no different. I have a special guest here today. Her name is Kassandra, and Kassandra has been through so many things in her life. All types of things, and we'll get into it because I want her to tell her story. But I want you guys to pay close attention to the details. As she begins to express herself, my hope is that you're able to connect heart to heart. And like I said, to receive hope that whatever you're going through, that you can get through it too. And without further ado, Kassandra. Yes, you are popular, aren't you?
I'm God's favorite.
Amen. If you his favorite, what that make me?
You're his favorite too.
Amen, I receive. Welcome to the show. I'm so thankful that you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I've known you for a while now, and I'm excited for the world to just hear your testimony and the things that you've gone through and the things that you're overcoming even now, right? So, like always, I like to start off with give them an introduction of who you are, because I know you, but the world doesn't know you, so they deserve to know this presence, this goddess that's before me. And then also tell the audience how we met. So go ahead.
Okay, so my name's Kassandra. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Moreno Valley, California. And when I met Dr. O, it was in November, I believe.
Yeah.
Like right before Thanksgiving, we met.
Yeah.
And I was going through a lot of stuff spiritually.
Wow.
Before I met you, it was, I was getting like regular therapy, like from this agency that they have coming here to help. And I had the therapist tell me like, okay, so I don't know if what you're going through is mentally or spiritually. And it kind of hit me like, well, this is your job. If you don't know, I don't know either. And I kind of, it's something I kind of felt my whole life. It's almost like I knew that what it was more like spiritual, right? Like I felt like, I almost physically felt like if I was in chains.
Wow.
And I kind of spoke to leadership here and I was just like, I need help. Like I need therapy. I need something. I didn't know there was a thing as deliverance.
Wow.
Yeah, because like
before I met?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know what
So I just spooked you out.
Yeah, so I didn't really know of
Why?
like.
How did I do that?
Yeah, so I've never picked up a Bible until I got here.
Wow.
So I knew of God.
Yeah.
I just didn't know him personally.
Wow.
Like I knew there was a God, but I seen him more as like maybe like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like he was like a strict figure. Like I'm gonna get in trouble type of stuff, you know? Like I didn't know there was love that came from God.
Wow.
I thought it was more like criticism. He's a mean person. Like that's how I viewed as like God.
Hey, I have to go back now because now the memory of when we first met, right? It was, I think it was the first time I came to teach you guys.
Yeah.
Because I remember I looked a hot mess from work because I can remember now that I had that wrap on. And I forget the lesson that I taught because I've taught so many different lessons. I forget the lesson. Do y'all remember the very first?
It was, you kind of were trying to get us to understand that we had a heavenly language that we can connect and talk to God personally.
Okay. So I remember, go ahead.
Sorry.
No.
And then you also like were teaching us that we need each other in our journey. So you kind of like, it was kind of, to me, it was a therapy session and we all needed each other for the therapy session. Because around that time, we were all like in our own.
I felt that.
Yeah, it was very divided.
As soon as I walked on the floor, I said, ooh.
Yeah.
There's darkness in there. And even walking into the room. And it's crazy because I think I was actually watching some video the other day. Some of the girls that was in that room, I haven't seen them since that day, right? So I also felt that feeling of wanting to run, right? And I seen that. So I remember also with you that you received the Holy Spirit, but now I'm like, wait, you didn't even know what was going on. Like this whole thing is like, now it's like a hindsight. You didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Wow, that's how you knew it was God. Cause you're like, I've never heard of this, never seen it, but something's happening to me.
Yeah, I think I said that the other day to one of the girls. I was like, I know it's God because I've met people here that are like, I've done 9 programs. I've done 10 programs. I've done like an outpatient. And even then it was more so like I did it on I stood on my own understanding. And now like learning about God and having a relationship with Christ, like, and wanting to be more like Christ, like I know there's no explanation, no doubt that this is God and that God is real, because I've never had a chance to really put God first in my life and ever went in the path that he wanted me in. And now that I have a chance, I was like, there is no way, because I haven't fell. And even when I am falling, when I feel like I'm falling, God is right there to pick me back up.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you received the Holy Spirit, because you began to speak in tongues, and we prayed for the Holy Spirit to reign, I remember the whole room turned hot. I was sweating to the point that as I was leading people into giving their life to Christ, my voice went out. And I was like, oh, okay. Like devil is a liar. And I started coughing. It was just, the room was just very heavy and hot and sweating. I'm dripping sweat. So what was your experience now that I'm knowing? Because now I'm like, wow, I didn't know that you didn't know that you didn't know.
Yeah.
So what did you think was going on with the prayers and deliverance and all?
Okay, so what I remember from that day, because it's kind of like, it was like in and out almost. That's the best way I can explain it. So and you're like, don't look at anybody, don't worry about the person next to you, like this is you and God. So I remember you taking us in through a meditation, and I know it was, now that I'm more like deep in my walk with God, like I know it was Satan trying to like pervert what the meditation you were doing, because I couldn't focus, and it was uncomfortable for me to try and picture God or try to picture Jesus right next to me, and Satan trying not to like twist it in a sick way. So it was hard for me, and I was getting very angry. So when I started to hear people speaking in tongues, I thought it was everybody else, and like after, the girls were like, that was you. I was like, what?
Yes.
Like I didn't even know it was me.
Yes.
Like I'm still shocked, but I remember when I like kind of like snapped out of it, I just remember my whole shirt was drenched in sweat.
Wow.
I was in tears, and then I know like one part that I kind of remember was like I was coughing a lot. Like I felt like I was gonna throw up. Yeah. And I was like, am I just crying too hard or something? Like it was a feeling that was like, I felt free. Like I felt free. I forgot there was anybody else in the room. So when I kind of like stood up, and I was like, oh dang, like everybody's still here. Like And then I just hear you like, girl, you were on Mount Zion. I was like, where's that? I want to go back.
It was an amazing experience to watch and see, because you were gone, and God took you in that moment, and it was a beautiful thing, and it was also to have your sisters around to see you go through that as well. Now, I know that after that you guys went home, right? And so we'll get into that on what happened after that. But before that, because I want people to have context, and even me to have context with your story, take us to the beginning.
Like the beginning?
Genesis.
Okay.
Take us to Genesis.
Okay.
In the beginning.
So, in my beginning.
Yes, in your beginning.
So, I have early memories up until maybe like the ages 3 to 4. So, I could talk about that. So, growing up, my parents, I grew up watching my dad and my mom both like cheat on each other. They didn't try to hide it from mine or my siblings, and it was kind of looking back, like it was a lot as a child to watch my dad take me and my siblings around different women.
Wow.
And then my mom take us around different men.
Wow.
And it's crazy because I always said I wasn't gonna be like my parents, and I did it to my kids too. They've seen me with multiple people. Yeah. And so growing up, my parents hurt people. Yeah. And that's the realest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. And growing up, my parents fought a lot, like a lot. I just remember always like people being mad in the house, yelling.
What number are you?
So my dad has 8 kids.
Wow.
I'm one of the babies. Okay. So I'm like the 3rd youngest.
Okay.
My mom has 5 and I'm the middle child.
Wow. Middle child. I know middle child syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real.
So growing up, I was the child that nobody wanted around. I cried a lot, and then if I wasn't crying, I was very angry. I remember my parents worked a lot, like a lot. They were amazing providers. They made sure that we had food in our stomachs, a house to live in, clothes. But the fact that they like worked so much, my sister, one of my oldest sisters, she's 5 years older than me. She would watch us, and she's a child herself watching us. It kind of made it to where me and my siblings were targets for people. And me, as well as 3 of my older sisters, were molested by family members. I was molested by one of my cousins. The first time I remember, I was 4. And we lived in these apartments, and my cousins and my aunts and uncles all lived in the same, like we all lived in the same like apartment place. And I remember my cousin and his cousin, sorry.
It's okay.
Like I said, I was a child that people didn't want around, so they said they wanted to play. And I was like, oh, somebody wants to play with me. Yeah. So we went into, they took me into in apartments, they have like, a laundry room and stuff. So they took me into there. I remember the room was really dark. And his cousin was like, oh, here, get on your knees right here. So I got down on my knees, and she made me give my cousin oral.
And how old are you?
I was 4. And I remember just not understanding what was going on. Like I didn't understand. In a way, I felt it was wrong, but his cousin was like basically coaching me through it.
Wow.
So they're like 5 years older than me. So they're kids themselves.
Yeah. And where did they learn that from?
Yeah. And I just remember, all I remember was the sensation that I had in my mouth, and I kind of like went to like spit, and then I see his girl cousin making me give her oral. And all I remember was a few days later, my sister and some of our other cousins were like, hey, Kassandra, we're gonna play a game. And I was like, well, what game are we playing, you know? Like, so I said, okay. So she was like, we're gonna play Judge Judy. So they had my cousins sit down and they were like asking me questions about that day. So growing up, I kind of had resentment towards my sisters. Like, did you guys see them lure me into the laundry room and you guys didn't say anything? And just just after that encounter that I had I had a lot of resentment. I was angry because I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And I almost felt embarrassed at the fact that people knew and nothing happened. Yeah, and then nothing happened. Like, where are the adults at?
Yeah.
Nothing happened. So then after that, it just kept happening. Like, not just with my cousin, it kept happening with like family, friends. To where I started questioning myself, like, is there like a smell on me that or like, is there something on me that makes people think that I'm just this dirty person and that it's like a free-for-all? Like, what's going on? So it became a regular thing from the ages of 4 up until I was 12.
Wow.
And my parents never really asked. They didn't ask and I didn't say.
But your sisters who set you down and did the whole Judge Judy game, what was the goal of that?
I don't remember anything after that.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to, I don't know, because even as an adult, I asked my sister, because I was going through this spiritual healing supposedly, and I got memories, vivid memories. Like, I can remember the smell that I smelled at the time. I can remember the taste in my mouth from doing that. Like, I just remember very vivid, like, sensations. And I asked my sister, like, why didn't you do anything? Like, you're supposed to be my older sister. And she said, I don't remember that. So then I started to question myself, like, am I crazy? Like, did I make this up? How does a 4-year-old make that up, though? So then, instead of trying to figure out the whys, I just comforted myself with drugs, alcohol.
And you know, that's a common thing when you have these memories and you've experienced it. Sometimes the mind, can play a part that, did it really happen? Because I was the only person there, so there's nobody to help me to say, yes, this happened, right? And then because you know it happened, and then you go to a person to bring it up, because I've explained even my story, how I went to the person and was like, and they never acknowledge it. So then you're like, but I know this happened. Like, I've experienced it. So the mind can try to, not to say manipulate, it's in a place of a defense mechanism that I erased it at that time, because if you were able to experience this, you wouldn't heal. You wouldn't be able to continue on. You would have been broken a long time ago. So it's honestly God doing you a favor of, I wiped that memory off. Now, as you get older, you have a bigger capacity to go through these things and to experience it. Then they come back, the memories come back. And you're like, first of all, they've been gone for a long time. Now I'm remembering stuff, and now I'm tasting stuff. So I know something happened, but you have nobody to say, hey, you remember this time. So now it's just you, your thoughts, and God that knows what actually happened in that time. But then it'll get you to a place of, maybe it never happened, right? And then, but you're still suffering because you still feel that it happened. Like, I know it happened though, but maybe it didn't. So now you're battling with this whole thing of did it happen? It didn't happen. It's the back and forth. Now, the thing that I tell to people that struggle with that is, one, if you have that type of memory, something of that sort may have most likely happened. The exact things of it was at 2 o'clock at 2:59 and this person walked in, that may not be exact, but the main concept of sexual abuse, it more than likely it happened, especially if it happened more than one time, right? It wasn't a one-time thing and I blacked out and no, it continuously happened. So I know this thing happened, right? Now, as far as did your sister do it, it's the same thing. If God can block off the memory of you actually going through it, he may have done it to her too because of the guilt and the feeling that she has as a 9-year-old, right? So it could be the exact same thing that's going there. So the anger and resentment that you have, remember she was a child too, right? What could she have done? And for them to all be a part of this, more than likely something has happened to them.
Yeah, so I just found out recently in December that the cousin that molested me, his dad molested my sister.
Oh, that breaks my heart. And so your sister already going through trauma and probably said, don't say anything, don't say anything. So now as a kid, it's like, here's this game. For them to even say, let's play this game, where do you even get the concept of this is a game?
Yeah.
Right? So what's happening to her, like you said, hurt people. Not that she was trying to hurt you, is that, okay, I'm not alone, but I can't do anything about it. I'm going through it myself with someone bigger. So just like the dad to the son, who knows what happened to this son? So all these kids probably have all been abused in some way or some form. So it's really sad because it tells you too when you're thinking about parents that are like, I'm doing everything I can to protect my kids. Like you said, they were out, they went to work all day, they were providing. So in their mindset, I'm doing the best that I can because they're not outside sleeping on the ground. They have food, but then look what's happening behind the scene. But you guys are fighting and going through your own thing that you're not even focusing on what's happening with the kids. Yeah. So, okay. So now then you get, first of all, let me go back to your parents. With your parents, were they strict?
They were regular, like, I wouldn't say strict, but I wouldn't say they were lenient either, because the moment we would like do something that we weren't supposed to and we knew we weren't supposed to do it, like we got, like me regularly, I got beat. I didn't get hit, I got beat. And that became a normal for me too. And I developed a mindset where like, I'm gonna get hit anyways, might as well make it worth it. Rebellion.
Can I show you something even now from what you said earlier? When you looked at God, you saw God as strict. You saw God as, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
Your parents, especially as kids, your parents are your first God. And how they act, you see God because he's supposed to be parent, he's supposed to do all these things. Now you look at him in the same way. Your concept of God came from your concept of your parents.
Oh, wow.
So how you saw God, how you saw your parents as, every time I got in trouble, whether good or bad, I got in trouble. And I was already the rejected person. So, hey, I'm already rejected. So rebel. God is going to get mad at me anyway, so might as well just do me, right? Yeah. I don't even want to come to him because if I can't come for I didn't get forgiveness from my parents. I didn't get that type of love from my parents. So who's this God? That is invisible.
Yeah.
I see them and look how I'm treated. Yeah. So your concept, when you said that earlier, you said, I saw God as, and you took it to second, strict. Like I was going to get in trouble. Where did that concept come from? Your parents who are your first God.
That's crazy.
You see that?
Yeah.
Because this is going to help your healing of, now I know how to break that apart because he is not like my earthly parents.
Yeah. It became a regular thing with those people that lived around. Like I became friends. I remember these 2 twin girls that I was friends with. And it went from being able to like go play at the park to you want to come over and play at my house. And it became a thing where like their parents would be like, you guys need to go to your room, you're in trouble. So I would like say I wanted to leave and be like, okay, well, I'll come play the next day or something. And as I'm getting ready to leave, like her mom would undress in front of me and her dad would watch my reaction.
Is their kids there? It's
No,
just you?
It was just me.
Wow.
But they would come get me, like, can you come play? And then they would go to their room.
So I don't want to say this is how it went down. I'm hoping it's not. The parents probably said, hey, go tell Kassandra to come over.
It almost, like, knowing that how I am, like, knowing as an adult now, yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it at the time. But like I said, I was the child that nobody wanted to play with. So anytime somebody was like, do you want to play? I jumped on it.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like a people pleaser? Like, I just want to please them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you ever speak to your parents about it? Did you tell anybody what was going on?
I don't remember telling anybody. I thought it was, at that point, I thought it was normal.
Because of the stuff that has happened in the past?
I thought it was normal. I thought when people were making me do things or even wanting to, hey, Kassandra, come over. Hey, Kassandra, let me give you some attention or something. I felt like it got to a point where I felt like it was normal. Like, I thought in order to get attention from somebody, like, I have to do something sexually to them.
Because down that definition of love is surrounded.
Yeah.
Because something I never received with attention and love, yet every time someone's doing something to me, it looks like love, like they're enjoying it, they're happy. So I just want to please you to make you happy. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because it's a lot of people that feels like that, especially when you're abused young and when you don't have people around you or family members such as parents, like dad and mom, that is giving you that love because they're supposed to teach you love. So when that is not taught and it's expressed in a different way, especially when rejection is a part of it, then you're like, well, I know what rejection feels like. No one loves me. No one wants to be around me. But for some reason, when this is happening, everybody wants to be around me. So maybe there's something about me that people love.
So another vivid memory that I can actually go into detail about was I was playing with the neighbors, and it was me, my brother, my sisters, two of the neighbors, and then down the street there was a couple other kids that we would hang out with. And one of the neighbors' older brothers was drunk, and he would kind of like let us drive his car. I was 8, and I'm probably one of the oldest ones there.
Yeah.
So he would let us drive his car, but he would make us sit on his lap. And I remember that same feeling that I would get when somebody was doing something. I got that same feeling, and as I'm steering the car, he's like, just make sure you steer. And as he's explaining, he's like touching me like if it's regular, like don't mind what I'm doing, you just focus.
Yeah.
And I remember I told his girl cousin, and she was just like, he's just showing you love. And later I found out that they were molesting her.
And that seed of love again, it's like it now even digs it deeper. And it's unfortunate because when you hear that type of reaction from someone else, when you finally tell, like, I'm being bold, and now this is a couple times, I spoke to this person, I told this person, and no one has helped me. They've solidified the idea of love, but they have also said, this is okay. It's normal, accept it, just receive it. Just receive it. Just receive it. So it becomes normal because now you're looking at these more mature people that you're older than me. So obviously, if you're saying it's okay, it must be okay. Maybe I'm the wrong person. Maybe I need to just receive it. This is normal. Even though something in you is saying this is not right, but then you go for help and then help says, just receive it.
Like the fighting and the chaos, like I was just over it. So at 12 years old, I started running away from home. And I would run away for weeks, almost even like a month.
Wow. Was anybody looking for you?
My mom would. Bless her heart. My mom would work graveyard shift, and as soon as she would get off work, she would go look for me. And at times, like she would find me, I would see her, and I would run and hide. And I think she even told me at one point that she seen me running because she knew that I saw her, and she seen me running. She said, and it broke my heart. And I was like,
Wow.
you don't want to be found. So she was like, I'm not gonna look for you anymore. Like,
Wow.
you know where you live, and we've never kicked you out. So you can come home when you want to come home.
So what made you run away?
Just the fighting all the time. I felt it was always me. Like, I was always the problem. Like, nobody can tell you anything. You get angry, or you don't do this. I always did something to somebody that made them be like, that made me feel like, well, if I wasn't around, would your life be better? So I started to run away. And I started hanging around with older people. I'm talking like high school age and up, like 16 and up.
Because you're 12.
I had a friend, and I was really close to her. And there was this guy that would come to her house and like hang out with her older brother. And they were like, I think 18, 19 at the time. And he took interest in me. I told him I was 15 years old. And we started hanging out. And
he just did not know that you were 12.
He didn't know at that point.
Okay.
So I told him I was 15, or maybe he just acted
But
like
he was
didn't
19
know.
regardless.
Yeah.
You're 19, even if you were 15. You're underage.
So I told him I was 19, and I remember we were smoking, because at that point, at 12, I started smoking weed, and it quickly went to me doing coke.
Wow.
And I was a big,
At 12?
and I was a big alcohol drinker at that time too.
At 12?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're smoking and drinking, and we're like flirting with each other, making out, and I didn't say no. But then I started to have like this uncomfortable feeling, because I knew I was a virgin. He didn't know. Obviously, if I'm making out with you and I don't know you, you're gonna think that I'm game for anything. And it got to the point where I was just kind of like, you know what, maybe I don't want to do this. And he basically told me, like, you're either gonna give it to me or I'm gonna take it, because I didn't just spend all this money on stuff for nothing. And
on stuff, what, taking you out?
Weed, alcohol, smoking his weed and stuff.
So he's basically saying, I did all this to get to this point. Like, I paid for this.
Yeah. So I then tell him, well, I'm not even 15, I'm 12.
Wow.
And he said, so?
Wow.
And it kind of gave me that feeling that I would get as a 4-year-old,
like
having to do.
happen.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? This is how I'm gonna lose my virginity. Like, this is crazy. I really was blaming myself. I said, what did I do? Why did I do this? And basically, like, I went into mode of, all right, you know what's next. So I went into the back seat and laid there, and he didn't know I was a virgin at the time. So when we got done doing what we were doing, there was blood everywhere. He was just like, oh, you're a virgin? Happy about it.
Wow. Of a 12-year-old.
And I was crying, and he was like, stop crying. It was gonna happen anyways.
Wow.
So I remember going to one of my best friend's house at the time, and I told her what happened. And she was just like, why did you go? I said, I wanted to hang out with him. I thought he liked me. And she was like, well, it's your fault. So then that's when I had the mentality my whole life, like, I wasn't raped, it was my fault. I decided to go.
You see how these seeds drop from what other opinions are, and it becomes an impression. And now that impression, like you said, it dictates my daily decisions, because no, that's not how it happened. I put myself in a position. But even if you put yourself in a position or go to someone's house, you don't have a flag up that's saying, yeah, I'm ready to be sexually abused. And it's unfortunate that we do have people around that speak in such a way. But again, I'm sure something probably happened to her as well.
Yeah, well, I kind of like was talking to my older, I didn't tell her it happened to me, but it was kind of like a conversation I was having with her. And she kind of told me that her and her friends were having a conversation. And this is my older sister that's 5 years older than me. And she's telling me, oh, you know, me and the girls were talking about this. And one of her friends said that she was told that because she was so pretty, it was her fault that that happened to her. So my sister telling me that, and I'm not even telling her this happened to me, my sister telling me that, it kind of put me in the mindset like, oh, I'm pretty, it's gonna happen. It's my fault. And that's when it spiraled out of control. When that happened, I didn't seem to take interest in boys my age. I was seeking attention from grown men.
Yeah. Even after that night, because you ran away, where did you go?
I would sleep at parks, or I would go to a friend's house, and the moment their parents would ask questions, like, do your parents know? I would leave.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time sleeping at parks by myself.
At 12?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like went to different cities at that too.
Cities? How?
I would get rides from men.
And these are clearly people that can drive, so 18 and older. And what would they do where you...
I would just meet people. I would walk around, meet people.
And they were just okay with driving a 12-year-old around?
Well, I lied about my age too at that
And said
time.
15?
Yeah.
But even 15, that's still, even if it's 15, it's like you're taking a minor into your possession, knowing that it's illegal and it's...
I thought it was normal too. I thought, I got game. I'm pulling these older men that got houses, that got cars, and I'm pulling them. And being a mom of a 13-year-old now, I'm like, these are predators.
Yes. Yes.
These are predators. Like, I'm over here thinking I got it because they're giving me money, they're giving me attention, and they got this and they got that. Why aren't you with grown women? Like, why can't you get a grown woman? Why are you with a little girl?
And why are you so okay with it? Like, yeah, I'll take you.
Yeah.
Like, it's normal. Like, this is something that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because of your immaturity as a child, of course you would feel like that. Okay, yeah, I must be doing something, not knowing that, no, actually you're being manipulated.
Yeah.
With no guidance, no family around. Okay, so then what happens after that in your life? How, like you said, you're going city to city?
I'm running away, and that's from 12 to 14. At 14, I got pregnant with my first daughter.
14. Okay, and who is this person?
So he is was in one of my sisters. So my sister that's 2 years older than me, he was kind of like in her classes. And so she knew him.
Okay.
And I remember seeing him on her camera, and she would take pictures at school. And I was like, who's this? And she told me his name, and I was like, he's cute. And she's like, girl, he is in the camera with his girlfriend. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, I don't care. So I already developed that mentality of like, what, being promiscuous at that age already. I thought I could get any man I wanted. If I said I wanted that man, I was gonna get him. So I started running away, going to his house. And I would just go to his house just so we could have sex, and I would leave.
Wow.
And
did you think that was power?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he had a girlfriend too, and he was still seeing me.
Yeah. Because a lot of times when a woman, and I say a lot of times because this is not everybody, you can go on different ends of the spectrum, but a lot of women that are abused, it turns into, well, let me get my power back. I'm going to take control. They've been taking control of me, so now I'm going to take control. I decide, like you said, I can get anybody I want. It's a change in mentality, but also I call that a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Because though it's going to happen, it's like, I get to choose how it's going to happen, right? But honestly, that's just tricking of the mind because you're still not really having that type of control. It's still a level of manipulation on that person's end because they want that as well anyway. But it's like, I get to do this. I'm going to show you how I do it like that. So that's a common thing as well.
So I ended up getting pregnant, and I remember that day that so the month that I found out I was pregnant, I was talking about being a month and a half late for my period, and I was having a conversation with a close friend of mine and her family. And I was running away at the time. It was around the holidays, and I was like, yeah, like, we were talking about our periods, and I was like, yeah, I'm like a month and a half late, but I think it's just stress because I'm running away and trying to dodge my parents from finding me. And they all looked at me like, a month and a half? You should take a pregnancy test. I was like, why? Like, confused, not even knowing, you know, like, just showing you like the immaturity of state of mind that I was in, that I thought like,
You can't get pregnant.
yeah. So I remember going to Planned Parenthood with my friend, and I think my sister even went, and they came out with the paper that said congratulations, and I'm like, I'm not gonna keep this baby. Like, there's no questions. Like, my parents are gonna kill me. I'm not keeping this baby. So my aunt, she has always been in my corner rooting for me my whole life. This is, she's married to my uncle, my dad's little brother.
Yeah.
And she's the reason why I came here to the Dream Center as well.
Wow.
So I remember calling her, telling her, I don't even know why I called her. I think I was just scared to talk to my mom, and I was just really close to her.
Yeah.
So I remember calling her and telling her I'm pregnant, and she was just like, it's okay, like, it's gonna be fine, like, we're gonna tell your parents and it's gonna be fine. She's like, these are just, you know, consequences of stuff that we do, and she's like, but it's gonna be fine. And I'm quiet the whole time, and she's just like, Kassandra, you're gonna keep it, right? And I was just kind of like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? She started going up on me, like, what do you mean you don't know? And I was like, my dad's gonna kill me. She's like, you weren't thinking if your dad was gonna kill you when you were doing it. She's like, you're gonna go make a child and think you're gonna get rid of it and sweep your problem under the rug just like that? So she basically was like, you're not getting out of this one. Like, there's no way. So I was like, well, let me think about it.
Yeah.
So I thought about it, and I had my sister, and I had two of my sisters tell my mom. They kind of gave her the paper. And she's on the phone with my aunt that I told that I was pregnant. She's on the phone with her, and I could see her from outside the window because she's outside on the phone on the porch talking to my aunt. And I'm watching, and I see her like do this, hangs up the phone and walks in the house. I said, oh my gosh, like she's about to kill me. And she comes in and she's like, Kassandra, what is this? And I said, it's a pregnancy test. She's like, I know what it is, but why? Why? And she starts bawling her eyes out. She's like, well, you know what? The same way you told me, you're going to tell your dad. And I said, but why? She's like, because you're going to do it. And I called my aunt, and she's like, I know. She's like, I was on the phone with her. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't tell my dad. And she's like, what are you going to do? Hide it until your belly pops out? And I was just like, well, he's going to kill me. He's either going to kill me or tell me to go get an abortion.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had already decided that I was going to keep the baby. So she's like, you know what? We'll come over and we'll help you tell him. So she comes over, and they're all laughing in the living room. My cousin came in, and he's like, dang, dude, like, you're about to tell your dad? And I was just like, I'm scared. And he was like, well, hold, because I had a smaller cousin. This cousin was my age, and he was like, well, hold the baby. He's like, just hold the baby so he can't hit you. So I was like, oh my gosh.
It's actually smart.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. So I held him, and I walked out, and my aunt was like, they were all sitting in a circle already. And my aunt was like, hey, so, you know, the real reason why we came over was because Kassandra wanted to talk to you, but she kind of needs help talking about this. She goes, so when she was out running away this last time, you know, she was with, and my dad was like, don't say nothing. I already know. And he looked at me and he was just like, you finally broke my heart. You disappoint me. Started bawling his eyes out and walked out. He didn't talk to me for like 2 days. And after the 2 days was over, he came to me and he was just like, let's go get something to eat. And he was like, I wish you could have waited. But it already happened. And we can't go back. But let's hope that this child doesn't end up like you. And it hurt. And he told me, he's like, you're gonna cry tears of blood with the problems that your kids are gonna bring you. And it hurt because I kind of told my mom, like, these are this is his grandchild. Like, why is he speaking that, saying that? Like, and I started saying, my kids will never be anything like me. But everybody was like, they're gonna be just like you. They're gonna be 10 times worse than you. What you caused your parents, it's gonna be worse. And that's something I always heard. And I was sober for, I wanna say, the first year
of her life.
I stopped
Was there
running
any
away.
complications or?
No,
Were you in school?
Yeah, so I kept going to school. I went to a continuation school for teen parents.
Okay.
And I was sober for a year. So a year and 2 months, I was sober. But after a year and 2 months, I left her dad and I kind of started going
So wait, hold
out.
on. You guys were together?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were together. We said we were going to get married and that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
I got really bad postpartum depression when I was with him. And
were you able to bond with the baby?
yes,
Okay.
I was able to, but I would only be with her in the room. Like, I wouldn't come out. It was to the point where I would just want to be in bed.
Yeah.
And she would be there, and then they would come and get the baby, like, oh, you have her in this dark room. But they didn't understand that. I didn't even understand what postpartum depression was.
And I think it's very important for a lot of people to understand that. And when did it start? Was it as soon as you gave birth?
So it happened when she was 6 months.
Okay.
I started to feel anxiety. That's how it started, was with anxiety. And I didn't know what anxiety was at the time either. Like, they blamed it on my birth control. I just felt really alone.
Okay.
I felt like my body went through this change. I'm used to being tiny, and then I went from being a size 5 to a size 10. Like, that's a big change. My baby's dad was kind of like a flirt. He would, look at women and stuff like that, and his mom would kind of say things like, he's just like his dad. Like, you're with him. Stop being so insecure. And I'm just like, how are you gonna tell me that? So I thought I was, again, crazy. I thought I was the one with the problem.
Yeah, being
And-
gaslighted.
Yeah, so then I would be in big clothes to hide my body. I would lay in bed all day. I would have suicidal thoughts. Like, I never had thoughts of hurting my baby, but I had thoughts of hurting myself.
Yeah.
And I was just very unhappy. I would cry all day, didn't know why. My sisters would come visit me, because I lived with him for a little bit. My sisters would come visit me, and I wouldn't come out.
Were you eating?
No.
Yeah. What about your energy?
I just wanted to sleep.
Yeah.
I just wanted to sleep all day. And if I got up, it was rare when I got up. I wasn't even really taking care of the baby.
Yeah.
They were doing it.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, like, well, why is Kassandra not doing it? She's supposed to be doing this. She's supposed to be doing that. So I kind of went back to my mom's house, and it got to the point where like I would go out with my friends, and he would get upset about it because I would go to the club. I was 16 years old, and I would go to the club with my older friends, and I would get drunk, and he would get upset, like, you're going out and this and that, and I'm just like, well, I mean, you go out, why can't I? I had that mentality, like entitled mentality almost. Like, if you're gonna do it, I can do it.
Yeah. So, question, were you still breastfeeding at the time?
No.
Okay.
I stopped breastfeeding after 3 weeks, I think.
After 3 weeks, that's early.
Yeah.
Okay. And were you still doing any drugs or alcohol? Because I know you say you were sober for a year.
Yeah.
For a
so
year.
I was sober for the year and 2 months. And when I started to go out, I would drink. So it was like occasionally drinking that I was doing.
Yeah. So with postpartum, because a lot of women suffer from it. My first question before I even get into it, did you have depression before?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety at 12.
Yeah. So usually a woman that has postpartum depression usually already had depression before. Not always, but it's more than likely you had depression before. Now, when the baby comes, there's hormones, or while you're pregnant, hormones do change. And then when you deliver the baby too, that depression and anxiety usually comes back. That's why a lot of people that are on medication before should usually talk to your provider to stay on medication during that time, so you prevent the postpartum or get back on medication once the baby's delivered, especially if the medications that we usually use is like SSRI, so that's like the Zoloft, Citrulline, fluoxetine, Prozac, all of those. Those are really good during those times. Or if someone that is taking supplements, something like 5-HTP and L-theanine is good. Now, I know this has happened already, but I want to talk to my viewers that may be pregnant right now or have experienced postpartum just for the future, because if you've experienced it with the child before, more than likely it will happen again with the next child. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're even going through something. It's just how the body and the hormones are. But a lot of women go through that. The reason why I asked you, were you able to start to actually bond with the child, is because in postpartum, something like you said of, I wasn't even able to take care of my child. That happens because it is depression. The isolation, no longer loving the things you once loved, lack of motivation, prolonged sadness, the crying spells, the anxiety that comes with it as well, no longer eating or overeating, lack of energy or fatigue, lack of sleep or oversleep, and these are all signs of depression. So if you're depressed and these are the symptoms when you're not pregnant, just imagine when you have a child now. So now the first period when the mother and the child, when you first had the baby, they put the baby on your chest, because that's so important for that skin to skin contact. Now, when the baby is born, it's very important that the mom and the child bonds as well, because that plays a role in the child's growth as well. So someone that goes through postpartum, when they're unable to bond with that child more than likely will go through separation anxiety. Does that sound familiar for your child? Yeah. So now I'm telling you these things so you can see the seed to it, so you know how to fight it. So it started from a long time ago. And again, if you're now pregnant and you have a child and you have depression and anxiety, one, that's a spiritual thing. But then two, you already have these emotions that are going to the child. I always was in a place of anxiety. I'm 14, I'm pregnant. So you already had that going on in depression. So that also goes and flows in before the baby is born. The baby already had this disadvantage. That's not your fault, okay? I want to tell you that. That has to break off, that guilt, whatever you're having that's connected with your child. I'm just telling you this so that you're able to educate your child to say, this is how we're going to fight through it. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at 16, when I left him, I started to party. And at that time, I started to sell weed. I had a lot of guy customers, so it made it easy to make money. And I started to go to this, it was a hookah bar, but it was kind of like a club. One of my sisters worked there as like a hookah tender. And
Hookah tender.
yeah,
I ain't never.
she would come out and bring the hookah to you.
Okay, but they call them hookah tenders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what I know them as.
They're like, yeah, hookah tender. Look, that's how you know I'm so far out.
So I started to go to, and at that time, I was 17.
Okay.
I'm not even allowed to be in there, but she got me in because she worked there.
Yeah.
And I would see all these girls, they would have them go-go dance. And that became my scene.
Okay.
And
Why?
I seen like the attention that these girls would get from the men. Almost like, it was almost seeing like, the best way I can explain it, like that's popping into my head right now, is like when you flip a light and roaches go everywhere and swarm. It was like that. They would come on stage and they would swarm around.
Wow.
And maybe I saw it as like, wow, I want that.
Yeah.
I
Because you've
wanna be
craved that
seen.
since you were young.
I want to be seen. And I did it a couple times. And
How was it when you did it? What feelings came?
so you know the feeling that you tell us about God maybe placing us somewhere, and then like you hear the clap and you're just like, whoa,
They
being
hit that. This is what she's talking about. I told the girls and I talked to Kassandra, this thing right here is so hypnotic. It's so hypnotic. You just, especially if you're someone that never received that, and then you finally hear, we love you, we love you. It's filling up that hole of, oh, this is the affirmation and the validation that I've been looking for all my life, and these people love it. I want more. Your dopamine increase. It's like when you did drugs, it's like, I want to do it again. It makes me feel good. It's euphoric. It's euphoric. So I want to do it again. So that's what you felt.
I felt that.
Like a drug. It was like a
Yeah.
high.
Yeah, so I did it a couple times, and then it's crazy because I had a couple of friends that were regular go-go dancers there, but they quickly went to stripping. And I remember one day them picking me up from my house to go out to eat because they had just got done dancing. And I just remember being in the car with them, and they're dressed up in their little dresses still, and they're just like throwing their money in the car and it's falling on them, and they're just like, look at it, look at
Wow.
it. And they're
This is
rubbing
like a
their
scene in a movie.
they were like rubbing the money on their body, and I'm just looking at them like, well, I want that.
Wow.
So I went to the club that they were stripping at. At that time, I finally turned 18. So I went to the club, I met the owner, and on the spot, he was like, you got a job.
Wow.
Like, you fit in perfectly. But I was seeing somebody else at that time.
Okay.
This guy I was 18, he was 35, 36.
Wow.
I met him, so I used to be on this website, a dating website. It's called POF. I used to be on this website.
Plenty of fish. Okay, I remember that.
So I met this guy, and he was a pimp. I met him, and he was like telling me like, yeah, if you work for me, he's like, I can get you cars, I can get you anything, but the money you make, you gotta give it to me, and I'll give you like gifts. And I was just kind of like, boy, you tripping? Like, if I'm gonna be having sex with him, I'm not. Yeah, like I'm not. No. But I went out with him a lot. Like he became like a friend. So me and one of my close friends at the time went out with him, and he had a whole group of guys with him, and I took interest in one of them, and I started hanging out with him. Well, he ended up being mine and my friend's plug for cocaine. And at that time, Molly was like a big thing too. So I kind of would like, hey, this person wants some. So if I got him a customer, he would break me off with whatever he had, you know? And we're hanging out. I end up getting pregnant at 18.
By this guy?
By him.
By the pimp?
No, by his friend.
By the
that
friend.
I met.
Okay, the connect.
So, yeah. So at that time, I'm completely addicted to cocaine. And I'm telling him, hey, this person wants to pick up when really it was me. Because he wouldn't sell to me. He's like,
because you're pregnant.
He's like, you're pregnant with my kid? He's like, I'm not, no. So I would tell him it was for somebody else. He kind of caught on to it. And I remember me and him got into a really big fight, and he ended up going out with some other girl. Well, I don't know, I guess God was looking out for me because he went out